The metallic scrape of Riley Morgan's torque wrench against the M27 IAR's flash suppressor echoed through the armory like an accusation no one wanted to hear. Early September morning, 0630 hours. Golden light filtered through the high windows of the Quantico Marine Corps Base Weapons Facility, catching dust particles suspended in air that smelled of gun oil and metal shavings. Riley knelt beside a workbench cluttered with disassembled rifles, her coveralls stained with carbon residue, auburn hair pulled tight in a regulation bun that nobody required her to wear anymore. She was 26 years old, 5'3", 118 pounds, the kind of small that made people assume fragile. Her hands moved with mechanical precision across the M27's gas block, checking headspace with calipers that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Third malfunction this week. Same rifle. The problem wasn't the weapon. It was the Marine who'd been forcing the charging handle instead of letting the spring do its job. The armory door banged open. Lieutenant Colonel Travis Brennan entered first. 6'1", 205 pounds of former football player gone slightly soft around the middle. Salt and pepper buzz cut, steel gray eyes that swept the room like he owned not just the space, but everyone in it. Behind him came Staff Sergeant Derek Paulson, all blonde cockiness and competitive energy, followed by Gunnery Sergeant Victor Hayes, dark-skinned and meticulously groomed, walking with the rigid posture of someone who'd been passed over for promotion twice and hadn't forgotten it. 3 more junior officers trailed behind, lieutenants, maybe captains. Riley didn't look up long enough to check their rank insignia. "Morning, sweetheart." Brennan's voice carried that particular tone of false friendliness that preceded cruelty. "Didn't know they hired kids from the motor pool to fix our weapons now." Riley's hands didn't pause. She torqued the flash suppressor to spec, 25 foot-pounds exactly, and reached for the next rifle. An M4A1 with a worn handguard that had seen better deployments. "Sir," she said quietly. Nothing more. Paulson leaned against the doorframe, grinning. "Seriously, though, how old are you? Like 19, 20? Did your dad get you this job or something?" The junior officers laughed. Not the full-throated kind. The nervous laughter of people who weren't sure if they should join in but were too intimidated not to. Riley field-stripped the M4 without looking, her fingers finding the takedown pins through muscle memory that went deeper than thought. Upper receiver separated from lower. Bolt carrier group slid out. Charging handle removed. 15 seconds total. Hayes stepped closer, arms crossed. "You even know what that rifle is called, sweetheart?" She did. "Look up then, just for a moment." Pale green eyes that held no anger, no embarrassment, just tired patience. M4A1 carbine, 5.56 NATO, gas-operated, rotating bolt system. Effective range, 500 meters for point targets, 600 for area targets. Rate of fire, 700 to 950 rounds per minute. Silence. 3 seconds of it. Then Brennan laughed. "Google is amazing, isn't it? You can sound real smart if you memorize the Wikipedia page." The door opened again. Master Gunnery Sergeant Leon Porter entered, carrying a clipboard, his weathered face showing every one of his 48 years. He walked with a slight limp. Shrapnel from Helmandkovens, 2011. Gray stubble on his jaw. Dark brown eyes that missed nothing. He stopped when he saw the group crowding the armory. "Morning, Master Gunny," Brennan said without turning. "Just checking on our equipment, making sure the help knows what they're doing." Porter's gaze moved to Riley. She'd gone back to work, inspecting the M4's bolt face for cracks with a magnifying loupe. Her posture had shifted slightly, weight on the balls of her feet instead of her knees, shoulders angled to keep the group in peripheral vision. That wasn't the posture of a contractor doing repairs. That was a tactical crouch. Porter frowned. He'd seen that stance before, in Kabul, in Ramadi, in places where hesitation meant dying. "How's the inventory coming?" he asked Riley directly. 7 rifles needed headspace adjustment, she replied, still working. 4 had carbon buildup in the gas tubes. 2 needed new extractor springs. All accounted for and logged. Her voice was flat, professional, the kind of tone that came from briefing rooms, not repair shops. Good. Porter made a note on his clipboard, watching her hands. The way she held the bolt carrier group. Fingers positioned for maximum control. Elbows tucked. Every movement efficient, economical. No wasted motion. That wasn't self-taught. That was trained. Brennan gestured at the workbench. So what's wrong with this one? He picked up the M27 Riley had just finished, handling it with the carelessness of someone who'd carried a rifle for 20 years and forgotten to respect it. Flash suppressor was loose, Riley said, torqued to specification now, ready for range qualification. Specification, Paulson snorted. Listen to her. Bet you learned that from YouTube, too. Hayes kicked the bottom of Riley's toolbox. Not hard, just enough to rattle the contents. Oops, butterfingers. Riley knelt smoothly, gathering tools that had spilled. She arranged them back in the box with automatic precision. Breaching kit configuration. Wedges, pry bar, bolt cutters in descending size order. Left to right. Porter's frown deepened. That was entry team protocol, specific to close quarters. Battle. Colonel, he said carefully. Sir, maybe we should… Relax, Leon. Brennan set the M27 down. We're just having some fun. Right, sweetheart? No harm done. Riley stood. 5'3" of absolute stillness. A burn scar was visible now where her coverall sleeve had ridden up. Shrapnel pattern. The kind that came from explosive fragmentation, not workshop accidents. On her left ankle, just above her boot, the edge of a tattoo showed. Black ink. Part of an eagle, globe, and anchor design. Porter saw it. His expression changed. "What's your name?" Brennan asked, suddenly curious. "For the record, since you know so much about our weapons." "Riley Morgan, sir." "Riley." Brennan nodded slowly. "Well, Riley, here's some advice. When officers are inspecting a workspace, proper protocol is to stand at attention and answer questions with respect, not keep working like we're interrupting your personal time." "Understood, sir." She didn't move to attention, didn't stop organizing her tools. Paulson's phone came out. Then Hayes's. 2 of the junior officers followed suit. Cameras pointed at Riley like weapons. "This is gonna be good content," Paulson muttered. Porter stepped forward. "Colonel, with respect, I think…" "That's enough, Master Gunny." Brennan's voice went hard. "Unless you'd like to join our young friend here in remedial customs and courtesies training." Riley checked her watch. 0647 hours. The morning range qualifications started at 0700. 40 Marines would arrive in 13 minutes expecting functional weapons. She picked up the next rifle, an M110 SAS with a scope that needed bore sighting. Her hands moved, steady, practiced, unnaturally calm. In the next 20 minutes, everything these Marines thought they knew about respect would be shattered. But for now, Riley Morgan just kept working. Silent, small, underestimated. Exactly the way she preferred it. The range filled with Marines at exactly 0700 hours. 28 of them, to be precise. Infantry, reconnaissance, combat support. They arrived in clusters, carrying rifle cases and ammunition cans, voices loud with the particular energy of men about to do something they were good at. The morning air smelled like cordite residue from yesterday's qualifications and fresh-cut grass from the tree line beyond the firing positions. Riley stood near the equipment shed, signing off on the weapons she'd repaired. Brennan had insisted she bring them personally. "Since you're so confident in your work," he'd said. Like it was a challenge instead of her job. The rifles lay arranged on a transport cart. M4A1s, M27s, 1 M110 sniper system. All function checked, all ready. She was ready to leave. "Hey, repair girl!" Paulson's voice carried across the range. Stick around. You might learn something." Laughter rippled through the formation. Not everyone. Some of the Marines looked uncomfortable, but enough joined in that it felt like consensus. Riley said nothing. She turned to push the cart back toward the armory. Hayes stepped in front of her. 6 feet of muscle and resentment. "Staff Sergeant asked you a question, sweetheart. It's rude not to answer." "I have other work, Gunny." "That can wait." Brennan appeared beside her, arms crossed. "I think it would be educational for you to observe how professionals handle weapons. Might give you perspective on what you're actually maintaining." Porter stood 20 feet away, checking range safety equipment. His jaw was tight. He'd tried twice more in the armory to pull Brennan aside. Twice more he'd been shut down. Now he just watched, waiting. Riley stepped back from the cart, found a position near the equipment shed, out of the way. Her posture shifted subtly, weight balanced, hands loose at her sides. Exit routes automatically cataloged. Old habits. The qualification course began. Standard Marine rifle tables. Firing from prone, kneeling, standing positions. Distances from 200 to 500 meters. Each shooter got 40 rounds. Minimum passing score was 190 out of 250. They were good, most of them. Scores in the 220s and 230s. Paulson shot 241, which he celebrated like he'd won the Super Bowl. Hayes managed 238, then immediately complained about wind conditions. Riley watched in silence. Her eyes tracked each shooter with clinical precision. Breathing patterns, trigger discipline, follow-through. She noticed things. The way Corporal Mitchell jerked his shots right. The way Lieutenant Warren anticipated recoil and flinched. Small things, correctable things. Brennan finished with 235. Respectable for a 42-year-old officer who spent more time behind a desk than downrange. He cleared his weapon, handed it to the range safety officer, then walked directly toward Riley. "So, what'd you think?" He stood too close. Invasion of personal space dressed up as casual conversation. "Impressive, right?" "Yes, sir." "Ever shot a rifle before? Real one, not a video game controller?" "Yes, sir." Paulson laughed. "Let me guess, your boyfriend took you to the range once and you hit the paper? Now you think you're Annie Oakley." Riley's hands were steady at her sides. Too steady. The kind of stillness that came from active control, not natural calm. Hayes grabbed an empty ammunition can from the cart, held it out carelessly. "Here." He dropped it, deliberately. 30 pounds of metal falling toward Riley's feet. She caught it, left hand, didn't look down, didn't flinch, just adjusted her stance fractionally and arrested the can's momentum 6 inches from the ground. The motion was fluid, reflexive, impossible. The range went quiet. Riley set the can down carefully, stepped back. "Lucky catch," Paulson said, but his voice had changed, uncertain now. Porter walked over. "Colonel, I really think we should check." "Check what, Master Gunny?" Brennan's eyes were fixed on Riley. "That our contractor has quick hands." A corpsman nearby was setting up medical supplies. He dropped a roll of gauze. Riley's head snapped toward the sound before it hit the ground. Threat assessment. Automatic. Then she caught herself, forced her shoulders to relax. But 6 Marines had seen it. The combat reflex. "You know what?" Brennan's voice went sharp. "I'm curious now. Riley, what kind of rifle did you shoot before? Make and model?" "M4A1, sir. Some M27 work. M110 platform." The range fell silent again. Those weren't civilian weapons. Those were military designations. Specific ones. "Where?" Hayes demanded. Riley hesitated. "Private ranges, Gunny." "Bullshit." Paulson stepped forward. "Nobody calls an M110 a platform unless they've been trained on weapon systems." "Where did you serve?" "I didn't say I served, Staff Sergeant." "But you did." Porter's voice cut through. He pointed at Riley's ankle. The coverall had ridden up again during her crouch. The tattoo was fully visible now. Eagle, globe, and anchor, with a date underneath, 2019, and a specific unit designation. That's a MARSOC Raider tattoo. Every Marine within earshot turned. MARSOC, Marine Special Operations Command. The kind of unit that didn't accept applications. The kind that selected from the best and broke most of them during training. Brennan's face went red. Stolen valor. That's a federal offense, young lady. It's not stolen, sir. Then explain it. Riley's jaw tightened. I'd prefer not to, sir. I'm sure you would. Hayes grabbed his phone. Because you're about to be arrested for impersonating. Wait. A new voice. Corporal Jamie Mitchell, 22 years old, fresh-faced and idealistic. He stepped forward hesitantly. Sir, with respect, maybe she's telling the truth. Maybe she just doesn't want to talk about it. Brennan rounded on him. Did I ask for your input, Corporal? No, sir, but... Then shut your mouth. Mitchell went pale, but held his ground. Sir, I just think. You think nothing. Get back in formation. Mitchell retreated, but he was watching Riley now. Really watching. So were others. A staff sergeant near the 300-meter line. 2 lance corporals by the ammunition point. They'd seen combat. They recognized something in Riley's bearing that civilians didn't have. Brennan turned back to Riley. His voice dropped to something dangerous. Here's what's going to happen.
Appin, you're going to prove you can actually shoot, right now, in front of everyone. And when you fail, you're going to explain where you really got that tattoo and why you thought lying to Marines was a good idea. Riley stood perfectly still. Sir, I don't have range authorization. I'm the range safety officer today. I'm authorizing you right now. Porter stepped forward. Colonel, she needs proper certification, liability paperwork. I'll handle the paperwork, Master Gunny, unless you'd like to be written up for insubordination. Porter's hands clenched. But he was a Marine. Orders were orders, even stupid ones. He stepped back. Brennan grabbed an M4 from the cart, handed it to Riley. 40 rounds, standard course. Let's see what you've got, sweetheart. Riley took the rifle. Her hands moved automatically. Press check. Chamber empty. Magazine well clear. Sight picture assessment. Muscle memory so ingrained it looked like breathing. 40 Marines watched. Phones came out. At least 15 cameras recording now. Riley walked to the firing line. Accepted magazines from the ammunition point. Loaded with smooth efficiency. No fumbling. No hesitation. She took position at the 200-yard prone station. The range went absolutely silent. Before we see what happens next, quick question. Have you ever been underestimated because of how you look? Because of your age, your size, your gender? Drop a comment below and hit subscribe, because what Riley does in the next 8 minutes will rewrite everything these Marines think they know about judging a book by its cover. Riley settled into position, exhaled slowly, and squeezed the trigger. The first shot hit center mass at 200 meters. The second followed 0.3 seconds later, same hole. Riley worked through the prone portion with mechanical precision. Controlled breathing, smooth trigger press, perfect follow-through, no wasted movement. Her body absorbed recoil like it was designed for it. 10 rounds, 10 hits, all within a 4-inch grouping. The spotting scope operator, a lance corporal named Torres, stared at his scope, then at Riley, then back at the scope like it might be lying. All hits, he called out, voice uncertain. Center mass. The range had gone quiet. That particular silence that happens when men who think they're good at something watch someone operate on a completely different level. Riley transitioned to kneeling position, 200 meters, the stance that separated recreational shooters from trained professionals. Most people wobbled, their knees shook, their breathing went ragged. Riley locked in like she'd been bolted to the ground. 10 more rounds, 9 seconds total. Every single one found its mark. "What the hell?" Paulson whispered. He wasn't smiling.
Smiling anymore. Brennan's jaw was tight. Standing position. Let's see how she does when it's actually difficult. Riley stood. 300 meters now. Wind picking up from the east, maybe 8 miles per hour. Enough to matter. She adjusted her stance fractionally, widened her base, leaned into the weapon. First shot, center mass. Second shot, 2 inches left. She corrected. The next 8 rounds formed a vertical line that wouldn't have covered a man's palm. Torres didn't even wait for confirmation from the range safety officer. "Expert marks," he announced. "All hits." 50 Marines were watching now. Word had spread. Personnel from adjacent ranges had wandered over. Someone from the base communications office, 2 officers from the schoolhouse, all of them filming. Riley cleared her weapon, ejected the magazine, locked the bolt back, handed it to the range safety officer with the muzzle pointed safely downrange. Her hands weren't shaking. Her breathing hadn't changed. She looked like she'd just finished filing paperwork. The electronic scoring system calculated automatically. 248 out of 250 possible points. Standard Marine qualification was 190 to pass. Expert level was 220. MARSOC standard was 230 minimum. Riley had just shot 248. Brennan stared at the scoreboard. His face had gone from red to pale. That's not possible. Not for someone who learned on civilian ranges. "Maybe she's actually military," Mitchell said quietly. Too quietly, but 3 Marines near him heard it. Hayes wasn't accepting it. She got lucky. Wind conditions were perfect. Targets were stationary. Let's see her do something that actually requires skill. Like what? Porter's voice was flat, challenging. "Field strip, blindfolded." Hayes grabbed a tactical blindfold from his kit bag, the kind used for night vision training. Thick neoprene that blocked all light. Standard M4. If she's really trained, she can do it in under 30 seconds. Brennan seized on it. Perfect. Because anyone can memorize a qualification course, but technical knowledge? That's different. Riley stood near the equipment shed, silent. Her eyes tracked the blindfold like it was a weapon. "What's wrong?" Paulson's confidence was returning. "Suddenly not so eager?" "I'd prefer not to, Staff Sergeant." "Why? Because you can't?" Porter stepped between them. "This isn't necessary, Colonel. She's already demonstrated." "Demonstrated what? That she can point and click? That's not proof of military training." Brennan held out the blindfold. "Unless she's afraid to try." Riley's hands clenched briefly, then relaxed. Old discipline reasserting itself. "What's the time standard, sir?" 60 seconds for admin personnel, 30 for infantry, 15 for special operations. Riley nodded once, took the blindfold, secured it herself, double-wrapped, no light leakage. A sergeant brought forward an M4A1, standard configuration, loaded magazine removed, bolt locked back. He placed it on a table in front of Riley. 60 Marines watched now. The crowd had doubled. Senior enlisted, officers, even a major from the intelligence section. Porter held his stopwatch. "On your mark." Riley's hands found the rifle, fingers reading it like Braille. Takedown pins, upper receiver, lower receiver, bolt carrier group sliding free, charging handle, return spring, buffer. Her movements were fluid, confident, no hesitation. Each component placed precisely on the table in disassembly order. Then reassembly, parts flowing together like water. Pin alignments perfect, bolt sliding home, charging handle locked. She cycled the action once. Perfect mechanical function. Removed the blindfold. Porter stared at his stopwatch. "Time?" Brennan demanded. 11.3 seconds. The crowd erupted. Not cheering, shocked exclamations, disbelief. 70 phones recording the scoreboard, the stopwatch, Riley's face. 11.3 seconds. SEAL team qualification standard was 15 seconds. Force Recon was 14. MARSOC was 13. Riley had just beaten all of them. Paulson's mouth opened, closed. That's physically impossible. She had to have practiced with this specific rifle, this exact one. "Bring another." Hayes was desperate now, angry. "Different platform. She won't know it." A staff sergeant volunteered his personal M27 IAR. Different weapon system, heavier, more complex gas system. Riley had never touched this specific rifle. She repeated the performance, blindfolded, 12.1 seconds. Then someone offered an M16A4, ancient platform, different takedown procedure, 13.2 seconds. A gunny brought forward an HK-416, German engineering, proprietary bolt design, 11.7 seconds. Riley completed each one with the same unsettling calm, like she was doing dishes, like she'd done this 10,000 times before. Because she had. Brennan was sweating now. Anyone can memorize mechanical procedures. Let's see actual marksmanship. Long range, 600 meters. M110 platform. Moving wind. 3 shots, you need all 3 hits to pass. 600 meters with a 7.62 NATO round was sniper territory. Wind was gusting 12 miles per hour now. Variable. The kind that made experienced shooters miss. Riley accepted the M110, loaded the magazine, took position. She didn't use the spotting scope, didn't check wind flags, just made minute adjustments to the scope's elevation and windage turrets. Math done in her head.
Conversations that took most shooters 5 minutes with a chart. First shot. The target spotter called hit, center mass. Second shot. Hit, 2 inches high. Third shot. Riley adjusted between rounds. Hit, dead center. 3 for 3 at 600 meters in shifting wind. Torres lowered his spotting scope. Looked at Porter. Master gunny. That's instructor-level shooting. That's not amateur. That's not even regular military. Porter nodded slowly. I know. Brennan was losing control now. His voice went sharp. Fine, you can shoot. That doesn't prove special operations background. Anyone with money can take advanced courses. Let's see combat skills. Shoot house, moving targets, hostage scenario. 80% accuracy is passing. You've got 60 seconds. The shoot house. Quantico's close quarters battle training facility. Pop-up targets. Friendly and hostile mixed together. Shoot the wrong one, you fail. Miss too many hostiles, you fail. Take too long, you fail. Standard passing time was 90 seconds with 80% accuracy. Infantry average was 75 seconds. Special Operations Standard was under 30 seconds with 95% accuracy. Riley walked toward the shoothouse entrance. She checked the M-Force chamber, confirmed her magazine. 30 rounds. 80 Marines had gathered now. The entire morning training schedule had stopped. Everyone wanted to see this. Mitchell stood near the front. She's going to do it, he whispered to another corporal. Whatever she is, she's the real thing. Porter started his stopwatch. Riley entered the shoothouse. 4.7 seconds later, she emerged. 15 shots fired, 15 targets engaged, 0 friendlies hit, 100% accuracy. The timer read 4.7 seconds. MARSOC Close Quarters Battle Instructor qualification time was 5.2 seconds. Riley had just beaten it. The crowd didn't make a sound. Shock had progressed past exclamations into stunned silence. Brennan stood frozen, his career flashing before his eyes. Everything he'd said, everything he'd done, all of it recorded on 70 phones. Hayes grabbed Riley's arm, rough, aggressive. You're faking this. You've got to be. No one's this good without... Riley moved. One moment, Hayes was gripping her arm. The next, he was face down on the concrete with his wrist locked in a compliance hold. Riley controlled him with textbook joint manipulation. No excessive force, just perfect mechanical advantage. Then she released him immediately, stepped back, hands raised. I apologize, Gunny. Reflex. Hayes scrambled up, furious, humiliated. That's assault. You just assaulted a non-commissioned officer. Brennan grabbed his radio. Security. Equipment range. Now. Riley stood, dead perfectly still. Her coverall had shifted during the movement. The MARSOC tattoo was fully visible now. Eagle, globe, and anchor. 2019. And underneath in small letters, Critical Skills Operator. Porter saw it. So did 15 other Marines. The truth was coming, whether Riley wanted it to or not. 2 military police vehicles arrived within 90 seconds. 4 MPs in full-duty gear, sidearms visible, radios crackling with base traffic. Staff Sergeant Chen, the senior MP, assessed the scene with practiced efficiency. 80 Marines, multiple phone cameras, one small woman in contractor coveralls standing absolutely still while a gunnery sergeant shouting accusations 6 inches from her face. She assaulted me, Hayes insisted.
Witnesses, all of them saw it. Chen looked at Riley. "Ma'am, I need you to come with us." Riley nodded, said nothing, started walking toward the MP vehicle with her hands visible at her sides. Compliant, professional. Mitchell stepped forward. Staff Sergeant, he grabbed her first. She was defending herself. Corporal, step back. Chen's voice wasn't unkind, just final. Porter approached Chen quietly, showed him something on his phone. Chen's expression changed. He made a radio call, spoke too quietly for anyone else to hear, then nodded. The second MP vehicle pulled away, but Chen stayed, watching. Brennan was on his own radio now. "I want a full investigation, credentials verification, background check, everything." "Already initiated, sir," Chen replied. "Base security is pulling her file now." The crowd hadn't dispersed. If anything, it had grown. 100 Marines now. Words spreading through Quantico like wildfire. Someone muttering about the tattoo, someone else about the shooting scores. Rumors building on rumors. Riley stood beside the MP vehicle, waiting. Her face showed nothing, but her hands trembled slightly before she clasped them behind her back. Old habit, parade rest. A staff sergeant from intelligence section pushed through the crowd. "I know that name. Riley Morgan. I've heard it before." "Where?" Polson demanded. "Classified briefing. Last year. Something about Kabul. August 2021. He pulled out his phone, started searching. Hayes wasn't letting it go. "She's faking everything. Probably bought that tattoo online, memorized some procedures, got lucky with the shooting." "Nobody gets that lucky," Torres said quietly. "I've been a range coach for 6 years. That wasn't luck. That was thousands of hours of training." "Stolen valor is a thing," Hayes shot back. "People fake credentials all the time." Mitchell spoke up again, braver now. "Then why isn't she bragging? Every faker I've ever seen couldn't wait to tell their story. She's been trying not to demonstrate anything this whole time." That landed. Several Marines nodded. Porter stood apart from the group, watching Riley, seeing things others missed. The way she positioned herself with clear sightlines to all approaches. The way her weight stayed on the balls of her feet despite standing still for 5 minutes. The way she tracked vehicle movements on the nearby road without moving her head. Combat awareness. The kind that didn't fade even years after leaving the fight. A black SUV pulled up. Government plates. Tinted windows. A woman emerged. 51 years old. 5'7". Iron gray hair in a severe bun. Brigadier General Patricia Vance. Base commander. Her presence turned a spectacle into an official incident. The crowd snapped to attention automatically. Vance surveyed the scene with the expression of someone who dealt with enough stupidity for 3 lifetimes. "Someone want to explain why my entire training schedule just collapsed because 100 Marines decided to watch a contractor fix weapons?" Brennan stepped forward. "Ma'am, we have a situation. The civilian contractor assigned to armory maintenance has been impersonating military personnel, specifically claiming special operations credentials. She assaulted Gunnery Sergeant Hayes when confronted." Vance's eyes moved to Riley, then to Hayes, then to the phone still recording. "Turn those off. Now. All of them." 80 phones disappeared. Vance walked directly to Riley. "Name?" "Riley Morgan, ma'am." "Job title?" "Equipment Maintenance Technician, GS7 Contractor." "How long have you worked here?" 14 months, ma'am." Vance turned to Chen. "Where's her background file?" Chen handed over a tablet. Vance scrolled. Her expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture. Recognition. She scrolled further, stopped, read something twice. "Colonel Brennan, my office, now." Vance handed the tablet back to Chen. "Staff Sergeant, escort Miss Morgan to the base security office. She's not under arrest. She's being secured for her own protection while we verify credentials. Clear?" "Yes, ma'am." Vance looked at the crowd. "The rest of you have training schedules. I suggest you get back to them unless you'd like to explain to me individually why watching a contractor is more important than your military occupational specialty." The crowd dispersed. Slowly, reluctantly, but they dispersed. Mitchell lingered. "Ma'am, for the record, Gunny Hayes grabbed her first. She only defended herself." Vance studied him. Name and unit corporal. Mitchell, ma'am, combat engineers, 2nd platoon. Willing to provide a sworn statement to that effect? Mitchell swallowed hard. Going on record against a gunnery sergeant could destroy a junior Marine's career. But he nodded. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am. Good. Report to legal at 1400 hours. Vance walked toward her vehicle. Stopped. Turned back to Riley. Captain. The word hung in the air like a grenade. Riley's head came up. Automatic response. Then she caught herself. Ma'am, I'm not. You are until I say you're not. Get in the vehicle. Riley complied. Chen opened the door. She climbed in. The SUV pulled away. Brennan stood frozen. Did she just say captain? Porter was smiling. Actually smiling. Yes, sir, she did. That's impossible. She's 26 years old. She'd have to have been commissioned at 22, Porter finished, after completing one of the hardest selection courses in the military. MARSOC doesn't do age waivers, sir. If she's a captain at 26, she earned it. Paulson looked sick. We've been mocking a special operations officer for 2 hours. On camera, Torres added helpfully. Don't forget the cameras. Hayes said nothing. He was doing math in his head, calculating how badly he just destroyed his career. Brennan pulled out his phone, started searching. Riley Morgan, MARSOC, Kabul. The results came back immediately. News articles from August 2021. Abbey Gate bombing. 13 Americans killed, dozens more wounded. A small contingent of MARSOC operators who'd held the perimeter for 47 hours straight, who'd evacuated hundreds of civilians under direct fire. One name appeared in multiple classified briefings that had been partially declassified. Captain Riley Morgan, Silver Star recipient, critical skills operator, decorated for extraordinary heroism during enemy contact. The article included one photo, grainy, taken from distance. A small figure in full combat gear, carrying a wounded Afghan child through smoke and fire. Same auburn hair, same pale green eyes, same burn scar on her collarbone. Brennan's phone slipped from his hand, clattered on concrete. Oh God, he whispered. What did I do? Porter picked up the phone, looked at the article, handed it back without comment. She tried to tell us, Mitchell said quietly. She said she preferred not to discuss her previous employment. She wasn't being difficult. She was trying to avoid exactly this. The range was empty now, except for 7 Marines. Brennan, Paulson, Hayes, Porter, Mitchell, Torres, Chen. Hold on. Stop scrolling. What you're about to witness next is the moment an entire military base realizes that respect isn't about age or size or how someone looks. It's about character under pressure. Smash that subscribe button because this story is about to get real in ways none of these Marines expected. Chen's radio crackled. Security office to MP5. General Vance requests Colonel Brennan report to her office immediately. Brennan looked at Porter. How bad is this? Porter considered. Sir, you publicly humiliated a decorated combat veteran. You pressured her to demonstrate skills she specifically didn't want to show. You violated half a dozen protocols to force a contractor onto a live range. And you did all of it while being recorded by 80 Marines who are already posting this to every social media platform in existence. So very bad. Career-ending, sir, if you're lucky. Brennan nodded slowly, started walking toward the administrative building. His shoulders were slumped. 20 years of service collapsing under the weight of 2 hours of arrogance. Hayes watched him go. We're all finished, aren't we? Porter shrugged. That depends on what kind of person Captain Morgan turns out to be, whether she wants justice or revenge. What's the difference? Justice holds people accountable. Revenge destroys them. Porter started collecting the training equipment. My guess? She'll want justice. People who've actually seen combat don't usually enjoy watching others suffer, even when they deserve it. Mitchell helped gather ammunition cans. Master Gunny, why didn't she just tell us who she was from the beginning? Would have avoided all of this. Porter paused. Because she's dealing with something harder than combat, Corporal. She's dealing with what comes after. And sometimes, being invisible is the only way to survive it. Inside the security office, Riley sat alone in a small room. Not an interrogation room, a waiting room. Coffee on the table, comfortable chair, door unlocked. She stared at her hands. They were shaking now. Adrenaline crash, combat response fading, reality setting in. 14 months of anonymity? Gone. One morning. She'd known it would happen eventually. People always found out. That's why she'd left her last 3 jobs. Word spread. Questions came. Suddenly she wasn't Riley the contractor. She was Captain Morgan, Silver Star recipient, hero. She hated that word. Heroes didn't watch their teammates die. Heroes saved everyone. Heroes came home whole. She'd come home broken. The door opened. General Vance entered, closed it behind her, sat down across from Riley. "Captain, I need you to tell me exactly what happened this morning. Everything. Starting from when Colonel Brennan entered the armory." Riley took a breath, started talking. And for the first time in 14 months, she told the truth. Riley's voice was steady as she walked General Vance through the morning. Every detail, every comment, every moment she'd tried to deflect and been pushed further. Vance listened without interrupting, took notes on a legal pad with precise handwriting. When Riley finished, the general set down her pen and leaned back. "Why didn't you identify yourself immediately?" Because I didn't want this, ma'am." Riley's hands were clasped tight in her lap. "I took this job specifically because it was quiet, anonymous. I could work with weapons without the questions, without the attention. You had to know someone would eventually recognize you. I hoped I'd have more time." Vance studied her. "Your file has more redactions than actual content. Security clearance level 5, TS/SCI with compartmented access. Employment history from 2019 to 2022 is completely blacked out, except for unit designation and discharge date." Riley said nothing. "The parts I can read are impressive. Enlisted at 20, MARSOC selection at 21, Critical Skills Operator course graduation at 22, 2 combat deployments, Silver Star with Combat Distinguishing Device, Purple Heart, Combat Action Ribbon." Vance paused. "The Silver Star citation is classified. I can see it was awarded for actions during Operation Allies Refuge, Kabul, August 26, 2021, but the specific details are sealed." Riley's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, I'm not authorized to discuss operational specifics with proper clearance and need-to-know verification." "I have the clearance, Captain. With respect, ma'am, I don't have confirmation of that, and I'm not active duty anymore. I was medically retired 16 months ago." Vance pulled out her phone, made a call, put it on speaker. It rang twice. "Vance," a man's voice, deep, authority in every syllable. "General, I have Captain Riley Morgan in my office. I need verbal confirmation of my clearance level for her operational history." Silence. Then, "Is she okay?" Vance glanced at Riley. "Physically, yes. Put her on." Vance slid the phone across the table. Riley stared at it like it might explode, then picked it up, took it off speaker, held it to her ear. "Morgan?" Whatever the voice said, it made Riley close her eyes. "Yes, sir. I'm fine, sir." "No, sir. It was just a misunderstanding. I understand." "Yes, sir." She handed the phone back. Vance took it, listened. "Understood, sir." "Yes, sir. I will." The call ended. "Who was that?" Riley asked quietly. "Your former commanding officer. He confirms I have full access to your file, and he wants me to remind you that you're not alone." Riley looked away. "I prefer to be alone, ma'am." "I'm sure you do. Unfortunately, that's no longer an option." Vance stood. "Come with me." They walked through the administrative building. Marines in the hallways stopped, stared. Word had already spread. Riley kept her eyes forward, parade rest posture even while walking. Vance's office was on the 3rd floor. Large windows overlooking the base. Awards and commendations on the walls.
28 years of service displayed in photographs and plaques. Colonel Brennan was already there, standing at attention. His face was ashen. Vance closed the door, gestured for Riley to sit. She did. Brennan remained standing. "Colonel, I've heard Captain Morgan's account. Now I'll hear yours." Brennan's voice was mechanical. "Ma'am, at approximately 0630 hours, I entered the armory for a routine equipment inspection. The contractor was performing maintenance. I made several comments about her age and appearance. She demonstrated technical knowledge that seemed inconsistent with her position. I escalated the interaction by insisting she observe range qualifications and eventually participate." "Why?" Brennan hesitated. "Ma'am, I believed she was misrepresenting her qualifications. I wanted to expose her as fraudulent." "Based on what evidence?" "Her age, her size, the fact that she was a civilian contractor." "So, no evidence. Just assumptions." Brennan said nothing. Vance opened a folder. "I have statements from Master Gunnery Sergeant Porter indicating he attempted to warn you 3 separate times that Captain Morgan's bearing and skills suggested military training. You ignored him. Why?" "I didn't believe a 26-year-old woman could have legitimate special operations experience." The words hung in the air. Naked, indefensible. Riley stared at the floor. Vance continued. "You then violated range safety protocols by authorizing an uncertified contractor to participate in live-fire exercises. You pressured her to perform demonstrations she explicitly declined. And when Gunnery Sergeant Hayes physically grabbed her, you called military police to have her arrested for defending herself." "Yes, ma'am." "Do you understand that every action you took this morning violated regulations, protocol, and basic human decency?" "Yes, ma'am." Vance closed the folder. "You're relieved of your training command effective immediately. You'll be reassigned to administrative duties pending a full investigation. A formal reprimand will be placed in your permanent record, and you will submit a written apology to Captain Morgan within 24 hours. Brennan nodded. "I understand, ma'am." "Do you? Because I don't think you do." Vance's voice went cold. "Captain Morgan didn't want recognition. She didn't want attention. She took a job fixing weapons because it let her work in peace. And you destroyed that peace because your ego couldn't handle the possibility that someone who didn't look like your idea of a warrior might actually be one." Brennan swallowed hard. "Ma'am, I have no excuse. I was wrong. Completely wrong. Yes, you were. Dismissed." Brennan left. The door closed behind him with quiet finality. Vance turned to Riley. "He's not the only one facing consequences. Gunnery Sergeant Hayes will receive written counseling." Counseling for physical contact. Staff Sergeant Paulson will be assigned to work under your supervision for 30 days. Corporal Mitchell will be commended for attempting to intervene. Riley looked up. "Ma'am, that's not necessary. I don't want anyone punished because of me. This isn't about you, Captain. It's about maintaining standards. What happened this morning was a failure of leadership at multiple levels. That failure will be addressed. I just want to go back to work. That's not possible anymore. Your identity is known. Every Marine on this base has seen the footage by now. You're not anonymous anymore." Riley's hands clenched. "Then I'll resign, find another position somewhere else. And run again? For how long? Until someone else recognizes you? Until the next base figures out who you are?" Vance sat down across from Riley. "Captain, I'm not going to order you to do anything. You're not active duty. You're not under my command. But I am going to tell you that running doesn't heal trauma. It just postpones dealing with it. I'm dealing with it fine, ma'am. Are you? Because from where I'm sitting, you've spent 14 months hiding from your own service record. That's not dealing with it. That's surviving it. And there's a difference." Riley stood abruptly. "Permission to leave, ma'am." "Denied. Sit down." "Ma'am, I'm a civilian contractor. You can't order me." "I'm not ordering. I'm asking." "Please sit down." Riley hesitated, then sat, rigidly. Vance's expression softened slightly.
I know about Kabul, not the classified parts, but I know about Abbeygate. I know 13 Americans died that day. I know Marsoc lost 4 operators. And I know you were one of the survivors. Riley's breathing changed, faster, shallower. I also know that survivor's guilt is one of the hardest things a warrior can carry. Harder than physical wounds, harder than PTSD. Because there's no logic to it. You didn't do anything wrong. You did everything right. And people still died. Ma'am, I really don't want to discuss. Their names are tattooed on your ribs. Porter saw them when your coverall shifted. Corporal J. Reeves, Sergeant M. Hoover, Lance Corporal T. Vega, Captain D. Walsh. Riley stood again. This time, Vance didn't stop her. She walked to the window, stared out at the base, her reflection ghostly in the glass. They were better than me, Riley said quietly. All of them. Danny Walsh was the best officer I ever served under. He had a wife, 2 kids. He shouldn't have been there. He volunteered for the evacuation because he spoke Pashto, because he wanted to help, and he did help. Your team evacuated 47 civilians that day. 47 lived. 13 Americans died. Hundreds of Afghans died. The math didn't work out in my favor. That's not how it works, Captain. Then how does it work? Riley turned. Her eyes were bright with unshed tears. Because I've been trying to figure it out for 3 years. I've been to therapy, I've taken the medication, I've done everything the doctor said. And I still wake up at 0300 hearing the explosion. Still see Danny's face. Still feel like I'm drowning. Vance stood, walked over, didn't touch her, just stood beside her. There's no formula, no timeline. Healing isn't linear. Some days are better, some are worse. But hiding doesn't make it better. It just makes you more alone. Riley wiped her eyes roughly. I'm sorry, ma'am, that was unprofessional. No, it was human. There's a difference. They stood in silence for a moment. Finally, Vance spoke. I'm not going to force you to stay in this position. If you want to resign, I'll process the paperwork. But I am going to ask you to consider an alternative. Stay. Accept that people know who you are. And maybe, just maybe, let that be okay. Riley shook her head. You don't understand. When people know, they treat me differently. I'm not just Riley anymore. I'm Captain Morgan, war hero, Silver Star recipient. They expect something I can't give them. What's that? Someone who's proud of what they did. Someone who doesn't regret surviving. Vance was quiet for a long moment. The Marines out there don't need a hero, Captain. They need someone real. Someone who's been through hell and came out the other side. Not perfect, not whole, but still standing. Riley looked at her. I don't know if I can be that. You already are. You just don't see it yet. The base theater held 400 Marines. Every seat was filled. Riley stood backstage, hands shaking. This wasn't her choice. General Vance had made it clear. Not an order, but a strong recommendation. Address the base. Set the record straight. Control the narrative before rumors did it for her. She'd agreed. Barely. Porter stood beside her. You don't have to do this, Captain. Yes, I do. If I don't, this becomes a story instead of facts. And I've had enough stories told about me. Through the curtain gap, she could see them. Officers, enlisted, senior staff, junior Marines, all waiting. The footage from the range had spread beyond Quantico. It was on Marine forums, social media. News outlets were starting to pick it up. Small woman humiliated by officers, then reveals she's decorated special operations veteran. The headline practically wrote itself. Vance walked to the podium. The room went silent. Yesterday morning, a failure of leadership occurred on this base. Multiple failures, actually. But before we address those failures, we're going to address the facts. She gestured off stage. Captain Riley Morgan, front and center. Riley walked out.
The theater erupted, not in applause, but in the rustle of 400 Marines coming to attention simultaneously. She stopped at the podium, looked out at the sea of faces, took a breath. "At ease, please sit." They sat. Riley gripped the podium. "My name is Riley Morgan. I'm 26 years old. I enlisted in the Marine Corps in 2017 at age 20. I was selected for Marine Special Operations Command assessment in 2018. I graduated the individual training course and received my Critical Skills Operator designation in 2019. I deployed to Syria in 2020 for 6 months. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2019 and again in 2021. Her voice was steady, mechanical, like she was reading a report. On August 26, 2021, I was part of a MARSOC team providing security at Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul during Operation Allies Refuge. At approximately 1750 hours local time, a suicide bomber detonated an explosive device at Abbey Gate. The blast killed 13 American service members and over 100 Afghan civilians. The room was absolutely silent. 4 of those 13 Americans were my teammates: Corporal Jesse Reeves, age 23, Sergeant Marcus Hoover, age 29, Lance Corporal Tomas Vega, age 21, Captain Daniel Walsh, age 34. Her voice cracked slightly. They were better Marines than I'll ever be, better people. They deserved to come home. Riley paused, steadied herself. I was awarded the Silver Star for actions during that operation. The citation is classified, so I can't discuss specifics. What I can tell you is that my team and I evacuated 47 Afghan civilians from the blast zone under direct enemy fire. We held our position for 6 more hours until relief arrived, and then we came home. She looked down at the podium. Except 4 of us didn't. 4 of us stayed in Kabul forever. Someone in the audience was crying quietly. Riley couldn't see who. I was medically retired in 2022 with a diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. I spent 8 months in treatment. When I was stable enough, I took a civilian contractor position here because I wanted to work with weapons without the attention, without the questions, without being called a hero. Riley looked up, met the eyes of Marines in the front row. I'm not a hero. Heroes save everyone. I watched my friends die and couldn't stop it. I have nightmares at 0300 hours. I still flinch at loud noises. I carry survivor's guilt that no amount of therapy has fixed. And I took this job because I wanted to be invisible. She gestured vaguely toward the door. Yesterday morning, Lieutenant Colonel Brennan and several others made assumptions about me based on my appearance. They were cruel. They were unprofessional. But they weren't unusual. I've been underestimated my entire career because I'm 5'3" and 118 pounds. Because I look young. Because I'm a woman. Riley's voice hardened slightly. What happened yesterday wasn't about me proving I'm capable. I already know I'm capable. It was about exposing the assumption that capability looks a certain way, that warriors fit a specific mold, that respect should be given based on appearance rather than earned through character. She scanned the room. How many of you recorded the footage yesterday? Raise your hands. 60 hands went up, maybe more. How many of you posted it online? The hands stayed up. Some lowered guiltily. I'm not angry about that. You documented the truth. But I want you to understand something. That footage shows my skills. It doesn't show my struggles. It doesn't show the panic attacks I have in crowded spaces. It doesn't show the medication I take to sleep. It doesn't show the fact that I still can't hear fireworks without dropping to the ground. Riley's hands were white-knuckled on the podium. You see a highlight reel. You don't see the cost. And I need you to understand that every warrior pays a cost. Some physical, some mental, some both.
And that cost doesn't make us less. It makes us human. Vance stood in the wings, arms crossed, nodding slightly. Colonel Brennan, Gunnery Sergeant Hayes, and Staff Sergeant Paulson made mistakes yesterday. Serious ones. They're being held accountable. But I don't want them to destroy. I want them to learn. Because the military doesn't get better by punishing people. It gets better by teaching people to be better. Riley took a breath. So here's what I'm asking. Stop sharing the footage. Stop making this about humiliation and revenge. Start making it about respect. About understanding that you can't judge a book by its cover. That the person fixing your rifle might have more combat experience than you. That the quiet contractor in the corner might be carrying wounds you can't see. She stepped back from the podium. That's all I have to say. General Vance will address the administrative actions. Thank you for your time. Riley turned to leave. The room exploded. Not with applause, though there was that. With 400 Marines coming to attention. A standing ovation born from respect, not celebration. Some were saluting despite being indoors and uncovered. Breach of protocol. But nobody corrected them. Riley's eyes widened. She hadn't expected this, hadn't wanted it. Porter was at her side immediately. Head up, Captain. Accept it with grace. She turned back, nodded once to the room, then walked off stage. Backstage, her legs gave out. She sat heavily on equipment crate, put her head in her hands. I can't breathe.
Porter knelt beside her. Yes, you can. Box breathing. 4 counts in. Hold 4. 4 counts out. Hold 4. With me. They breathed together. Riley's panic attack crested, then slowly receded. I hate this, she whispered. I hate being looked at like that. I know, but you did good, Captain. You told the truth. That's all anyone can ask. Vance appeared. Captain, there are several Marines who'd like to speak with you. I told them you'd need time, but when you're ready... I'm not ready. I understand. They'll wait. Riley looked up. Who are they? Veterans from Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, some with PTSD, some with physical injuries, some with both. They want to thank you for saying what they've been feeling. Riley closed her eyes. I don't want to be their spokesperson. You already are, whether you want it or not. Vance crouched down. But that doesn't mean you have to carry it alone. Let them help you. The way you just helped them by being honest. 20 minutes later, Riley sat in a small conference room with 7 Marines. A sergeant with a prosthetic leg. A staff sergeant with a service dog. A female corporal who couldn't have been older than 24, but had eyes that had seen too much. They didn't ask about the Silver Star. Didn't ask about body counts on missions. They asked how she managed crowds. What medication worked. How she dealt with the nightmares. Real questions. Human questions. Riley answered honestly. For the first time in 3 years, she talked to people who understood, who didn't need explanations, who'd been there. The corporal spoke quietly. I was in Kandahar in 2019. Convoy hit an IED. I was the only survivor. Everyone keeps telling me I'm strong, that I should be proud, but I just feel guilty. Riley nodded. Yeah, me too. Does it get better? Some days, not others. But it gets different, more manageable. You learn to live with it instead of fighting it. The sergeant with the prosthetic. You going to stay here, at Quantico? Riley hesitated. I don't know. Yesterday I would have said no. Today, I'm not sure. Stay, the staff sergeant said. His service dog's head rested on his lap. We need people like you. People who aren't afraid to be broken in front of us. Riley looked at them. 7 people who'd come to thank her. But she was the one who felt grateful. Okay, she said quietly. I'll stay. For now. Porter appeared at the door. Captain, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you have a visitor. Who? Colonel Brennan. He has something for you. Riley stood, excused herself, walked to the hallway. Brennan waited, holding an envelope. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. Captain Morgan, I won't take much of your time. I wanted to deliver this personally. Formally. He handed her the envelope. His formal written apology, required by Vance, but his hands were shaking. Captain, there's nothing I can say that makes this right. I judged you based on every bias I didn't even know I had. I humiliated you. I violated protocols, and worst of all, I made you expose parts of yourself you'd specifically taken a job to protect. Riley opened the envelope, read the letter. It was thorough, detailed, honest. I accept your apology, Colonel. Brennan blinked. Just like that, just like that. You made mistakes. You're being held accountable. What else is there? I expected, I don't know, anger, demands, something. Riley folded the letter. I'm too tired to be angry, sir, and demands won't change what happened. You need to be better. That's all. Brennan nodded slowly. I will be. I promise you that. Good. Riley turned to leave. Stopped. Sir, for what it's worth, everyone deserves a chance to learn from their mistakes. Even you. She walked away. Brennan stood in the hallway, holding himself together until she was gone. Then he leaned against the wall and let himself break. Riley found Porter outside. The September sun was setting, golden light across the base. You okay, Captain? Riley considered. No, but I will be. Eventually. That's all any of us can hope for. They stood in comfortable silence. Finally, Riley spoke. Master Gunny, you knew who I was. From the beginning. In the armory. You recognized something. Yes, ma'am. Why didn't you say something? Porter smiled slightly. Because it wasn't my story to tell. And because you looked like you needed the quiet. Thank you. Anytime, Captain. Anytime. 24 hours after Riley's address, General Vance called a base-wide formation. Morning sun beat down on the parade deck. 400 Marines in perfect rows. Dress uniforms. The formality reserved for serious occasions. Promotions. Commendations. Courts-martial. Today, it was accountability. Riley stood off to the side with Porter. She'd asked not to be included. Vance had agreed. This wasn't about her. It was about standards. Vance took the podium. Her voice carried across the formation without amplification. Yesterday, Captain Riley Morgan addressed this command with courage and honesty. Today, we address the failures that made her statement necessary. She opened a folder. Lieutenant Colonel Travis Brennan, front and center. Brennan marched forward. His movements were precise despite the weight he carried. He stopped, saluted. Vance returned it. Colonel Brennan, you are hereby relieved of command of the Weapons Training Battalion, effective immediately. You will be reassigned to Marine Corps Base Logistics Command in administrative capacity. A letter of reprimand will be placed in your official military personnel file. This reprimand will be considered during all future promotion boards and assignment selections. Brennan's face remained neutral. I understand, ma'am. Do you understand why? Yes, ma'am. I abused my authority. I created a hostile environment. I violated safety protocols. And I allowed personal bias to override professional judgment. Correct. You are dismissed. Brennan saluted, about-faced, walked away. His career wasn't over, but it would never be what it could have been. The reprimand would follow him forever. Riley watched him go, felt no satisfaction, no vindication, just tired sadness that it had come to this. Gunnery Sergeant Victor Hayes, front and center. Hayes marched forward, older than Brennan, more bitter. He'd been passed over for MARSOC selection twice, and he'd taken that failure out on someone who'd succeeded. Gunnery Sergeant, you are hereby issued a formal written counseling for unauthorized physical contact with a civilian. You will complete a 4-week professional military education course on respectful workplace conduct. Failure to complete this course satisfactorily will result in administrative separation proceedings. Hayes's jaw tightened. Aye, ma'am. Additionally, you will submit a written apology to Captain Morgan and meet with her personally to deliver it if she chooses to accept the meeting. Aye, ma'am. Vance leaned forward slightly.
Gunny, I've reviewed your service record. 14 years, 2 combat deployments, multiple commendations. You're a good Marine when you choose to be, but resentment is poisoning you. Get help. Use the resources available before you destroy what you've built. Hayes's expression cracked slightly. Yes, ma'am. Dismissed. He walked away, shoulders tight, but something in his posture had shifted, like he'd been carrying weight he could finally acknowledge. Staff Sergeant Derek Paulson, front and center. Paulson marched forward, younger, cockier, but the events of the past day had clearly shaken him. Staff Sergeant, your actions demonstrated poor judgment and lack of respect for fellow service members. You are hereby assigned to work directly under Captain Morgan's supervision in the armory for 30 days. You will assist with all equipment maintenance, inventory, and training support. Captain Morgan will evaluate your performance at the end of this period. Paulson's eyes widened. Ma'am, You have something to say, Staff Sergeant? He swallowed. No, ma'am. I'll report as ordered. Good, because this is an opportunity. Captain Morgan is one of the most tactically proficient Marines this base has ever seen. You can learn from her if you set aside your ergo. Or you can waste 30 days proving you haven't learned anything. Your choice. I'll learn, ma'am. Dismissed. Paulson returned to formation. He glanced toward Riley. She met his eyes, nodded once. Professional acknowledgement, nothing more. Vance continued. Corporal Jamie Mitchell, front and center. Mitchell looked surprised, walked forward nervously. Corporal Mitchell, you demonstrated moral courage by attempting to intervene when you witnessed misconduct. Despite being junior in rank, you spoke up. That is commendable. Vance pulled a certificate from her folder. You are hereby awarded a certificate of commendation for upholding the values of the Marine Corps when doing so was personally risky. Well done. Mitchell's face flushed red. Thank you, ma'am. Use this experience, Corporal. Leadership isn't about rank. It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard. Dismissed. Mitchell returned to formation, walking 3 inches taller. Vance surveyed the formation. What happened 2 days ago was a teaching moment, not the kind anyone wants, but the kind we need. This command will not tolerate bias, will not tolerate abuse of authority, will not tolerate judgment based on appearance, age, gender, or any other factor irrelevant to professional competence. She paused. Let the words sink in. Every Marine in this formation has been underestimated at some point. Every one of you has had someone look at you and decide you weren't enough, too young, too small, too inexperienced, and every one of you proved them wrong by doing the work, by showing up, by refusing to quit. 400 Marines stood perfectly still. That's what Captain Morgan did. She didn't demand respect, she earned it, through years of training, through combat, through sacrifice. And when she could have destroyed the people who wronged her, she chose accountability over revenge. That is the standard. That is what we expect from every Marine in this command. Vance closed her folder. Formation dismissed. The Marines dispersed, conversations erupting immediately. Riley watched them scatter, then turned to leave. Captain Morgan. Hayes approached, alone. His face was tight with shame. Ma'am, I know I'm supposed to submit a written apology, but I wanted to say this in person first. Riley waited. I grabbed you, physically. That was assault. And then I tried to have you arrested for defending yourself. There's no excuse for that. None. Hayes took a breath. I was angry at you because you represent everything I wanted to be and couldn't achieve. You made MARSOC selection. I failed twice. You're younger than me, smaller than me, and you're a better Marine than I'll ever be. And instead of respecting that, I tried to tear you down. Riley listened, said nothing. I'm going to complete the counseling program. I'm going to get help for the resentment, and I'm going to be better. Not because I have to, because I should have been better all along. Hayes straightened. You don't owe me forgiveness, but I needed you to know I understand what I did wrong. Riley considered him. Gunny, I don't know if you failed MARSOC selection because you weren't good enough. But I do know that if this is how you treat people who succeed when you don't, you wouldn't have fit the team culture anyway. Hayes flinched. MARSOC isn't about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about being reliable, trustworthy, someone your teammates can count on when everything goes wrong. And yesterday, you showed that when things didn't go your way, you got physical and vindictive. Riley's voice wasn't cruel, just honest. Work on that. Actually work on it. And maybe next time, you'll be the person others want on their team. Hayes nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am. I will. He left. Riley watched him go. Paulson approached next, more hesitant. Captain, I report to you tomorrow morning at 0700. I just wanted to say ahead of time that I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to work, I'm going to learn, and I'm going to prove that yesterday was me being an idiot, not me being a lost cause. Riley almost smiled. Staff Sergeant, you're 29 years old. Act like it. That's what you said yesterday. I meant it. Paulson nodded. I'll see you tomorrow, ma'am. He walked away. Riley turned to Porter. This is going to be exhausting. Leadership usually is. I'm not a leader. I'm a contractor. Porter raised an eyebrow. Captain, you just gave a speech that made 400 Marines reconsider how they treat people. You accepted apologies with grace. You held people accountable without destroying them. That's leadership. I don't want to be a leader. Doesn't matter. You are one. Over the next week, life settled into a new rhythm. Riley returned to the armory. But it was different now. Marines nodded respectfully when she passed, stepped aside in hallways, called her captain, even though she asked them not to. Paulson reported every morning at 0700. He worked without complaint, learned weapon systems, asked intelligent questions. By day 3, Riley stopped watching him like he might sabotage something. By day 7, they were actually working together efficiently. Captain, the M110 scope mounts keep coming loose. I think the rail system is worn. Riley inspected it. Good catch. Replace the entire rail, log it. Already did. She glanced at him. You're learning. Trying to. Mitchell stopped by on his lunch break. Captain, I wanted to ask your advice about something. Riley looked up from a parts catalog. What? I've been thinking about putting in a package for Force Recon, but I'm worried I'm not ready. Not good enough. Are you in good physical condition? Yes, ma'am. Can you follow orders even when they're hard? Yes, ma'am. Do you quit when things get difficult? Mitchell hesitated. I try not to. Then you're ready as you'll ever be. Selection will tell you if you're good enough, but you'll never know if you don't try. Mitchell grinned. Thank you, ma'am. After he left, Paulson spoke quietly. You're good at this. At what? Mentoring, teaching. People listen to you. Riley didn't respond, but she didn't argue either. Young female Marines started appearing at the armory. They didn't always have equipment issues. Sometimes they just wanted to see her, to know that someone like them had made it. A lance corporal asked, Captain, how did you handle being underestimated? Riley set down her torque wrench. I stopped trying to prove myself to people who'd already decided I wasn't enough. I focused on the work, on being excellent at my job. The respect followed eventually. But it still bothers you, being underestimated, every single time. But that's not the point. The point is not letting it stop you. The lance corporal nodded, lingered. Can I ask one more thing? Go ahead. Do you regret it? Serving? Combat? Everything that happened? Riley was quiet for a long moment. I regret that my friends died. I regret that I survived when better people didn't. But I don't regret serving. And I don't regret who I became because of it, even with the cost. The lance corporal's eyes were bright. Thank you, ma'am. After she left, Riley sat alone in the armory, surrounded by weapons, by tools, by the familiar smell of gun oil and metal. For the first time in 3 years, she didn't feel like she was hiding. She felt like she was exactly where she needed to be. Porter found her an hour later. Captain, there's someone here to see you. Who? Brennan. Riley tensed. What does he want? To say goodbye. He ships out to his new assignment tomorrow. Riley followed Porter outside.
Brennan stood by his vehicle, boxes packed, career downsized into a sedan. Captain, thank you for seeing me. Colonel, I'm not a colonel anymore. They let me retire at my current rank, but I won't pin on again. This is it for me. Riley nodded. I'm sorry. Don't be. I earned this. Brennan looked at the base. 20 years. And I'll be remembered for the worst thing I ever did. Maybe. Or maybe you'll be remembered for what you did after. How you learned, how you changed. Brennan smiled sadly. You're more generous than I deserve. Probably. He laughed. Actually laughed. Captain. Morgan, you're going to do great things here. I can see it already. These Marines respect you. They'll follow you. I'm not leading anyone. I'm just fixing rifles. You're doing a lot more than that, whether you see it or not. Brennan extended his hand. Thank you for giving me the chance to apologize, and for showing me what actual strength looks like. Riley shook his hand. Be better, Colonel. That's all. I will. He drove away. Riley watched until his vehicle disappeared. Porter stood beside her. You okay? Yeah, I think I am. Good, because General Vance wants to see you. Riley groaned. What now? She didn't say, but she was smiling. Riley had learned that Vance smiling was either very good or very bad. There was no middle ground. 2 weeks had passed since the formation. The base had settled into its new normal. Riley was no longer invisible, but she was no longer a spectacle either. She was simply Captain Morgan, the contractor who'd earned her place. General Vance's office felt different this time, less formal. The general had coffee ready, 2 cups. Sit, Captain. Riley sat, accepted the coffee, waited. I have a proposal for you. Vance slid a folder across the desk. The Advanced Marksmanship Unit needs a civilian instructor, someone to teach precision shooting to scout snipers and reconnaissance Marines. The position is permanent, full benefits, significant pay increase. Riley opened the folder, read the job description. It was everything she was qualified for, everything she'd trained for. Why me? Because you're the best shot on this base. Because you have operational experience these Marines need to learn from. And because you've already been teaching without realizing it. Riley set down the folder. Ma'am, I appreciate this, but I'm not a teacher. I fix weapons. That's what I'm good at. You're good at a lot of things, including mentoring the dozen Marines who've come to you for advice in the past 2 weeks, including turning Staff Sergeant Paulson from an arrogant child into a competent technician in 10 days, including showing Corporal Mitchell that courage matters more than rank. That's not teaching. That's just talking. That's exactly what teaching is. Vance leaned forward. Captain, you can keep fixing rifles forever, and you'll be excellent at it. But you could also help shape the next generation of Marines. Teach them not just how to shoot, but how to think, how to lead, how to carry themselves with the quiet competence you demonstrate every day. Riley stared at her coffee. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Nobody's ever ready. But you're capable, and that's what matters. Can I think about it? You have 48 hours. Then I need an answer. Riley left the office. Office with the folder. Walked across the base, her mind spinning. The armory was quiet. Paulson had finished for the day. The rifles were stored, everything organized precisely the way she liked it. She sat at her workbench, opened the folder again, read the requirements, the responsibilities, the expectations. Her phone buzzed. A text from Porter. Whatever Vance offered you, say yes. Trust me. Riley smiled slightly. Typed back, you don't even know what she offered. Porter, doesn't matter. It's time to stop hiding behind wrenches. She set the phone down, stared at the tools arranged on her bench. The torque wrench she'd been holding when Brennan first walked in 2 weeks ago. It felt like a lifetime. The door opened. A young Marine entered. Male, maybe 22. Nervous energy. New to the base. Ma'am, I'm looking for the equipment technician. I was told she works here. Riley turned. That's me. The Marine blinked. You're Captain Morgan? Just Riley is fine. What do you need? Oh, nothing mechanical. I just wanted to meet you. I'm Private First Class Owen Davis. I got here yesterday. Everyone keeps talking about what happened a couple weeks ago. About how you shut down some officers who were disrespecting you. Riley sighed. That's not exactly how it happened. That's what everyone's saying, though, that you're this badass MARSOC operator who took down some colonels. I didn't take down anyone. I just did my job. They made assumptions. They were wrong. That's all. Davis nodded slowly. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. How did you deal with people not taking you seriously? Because I'm young, I look younger than I am, and everyone treats me like I'm incompetent before I even open my mouth. Riley recognized the frustration. She'd lived it. You proved them wrong by being excellent. Not loud, not aggressive, just consistently good at what you do. Eventually, the people who matter will notice. The ones who don't notice aren't worth your energy. That's what my recruiter said, but it's harder than it sounds. It is. But nothing worth doing is easy. Davis smiled. Thanks, ma'am. I appreciate you taking the time. He left. Riley sat alone again. Thought about what she just said. About being excellent. About proving worth through work. She'd been doing that for 3 years. Quietly, invisibly. Maybe it was time to do it differently. The next morning, Riley found Vance in the base gym. The general was running on a treadmill at 0530 hours, always the first one there. Riley waited until she finished her cooldown. Captain, you're up early. I have an answer to your proposal, ma'am. Vance grabbed a towel. I'm listening. I'll take the instructor position on 2 conditions. Name them. First, I don't want special treatment. I'm not a celebrity. I'm not a recruiter. I'm just a Marine teaching other Marines. No publicity, no interviews, no media. Agreed. Second condition. I want to continue working in the armory part-time. The mechanical work keeps me grounded, helps with the PTSD. I need that balance. Vance considered. 3 days teaching, 2 days armory work. That's acceptable. Riley extended her hand. Then I accept. They shook. Vance smiled. Welcome to the team, Captain. You start Monday. Riley spent the weekend preparing, reviewing lesson plans, updating range protocols, building course materials. It was terrifying, but it was also exciting in a way she hadn't felt in years. Monday morning, 0700 hours, 12 Marines gathered at the precision rifle range. Scout sniper candidates, reconnaissance hopefuls, all of them experienced, all of them expecting a standard instructor. Riley walked out wearing combat utilities, hair in a tight bun, rifle slung across her back. The students came to attention. At ease, I'm Captain Riley Morgan. I'll be your primary marksmanship instructor for the next 8 weeks. Some of you may have heard stories about me. Forget them. They're not relevant to this course. She set her rifle on the table. What is relevant is this. Shooting accurately isn't about talent. It's about fundamentals. Breathing, trigger control, position, follow-through. Anyone can learn these skills, but mastery requires thousands of repetitions and the humility to accept correction. A corporal raised his hand. Ma'am, is it true you shot 248 on a rifle qual course? Yes, it's also true that I've missed easy shots when it mattered. Scores don't mean anything if you can't perform under stress, which is what we'll be training here. She spent the next hour demonstrating, then observing, then correcting. Her feedback was specific, actionable, never condescending. By the end of the first day, the students were asking questions, real questions, not about her past, about technique, about tactics, about how to improve. Riley drove home exhausted, but satisfied. Paulson finished his 30-day assignment. Riley evaluated him fairly. Staff Sergeant, you've demonstrated significant improvement in technical knowledge and professional attitude. I'm recommending you for advanced weapons systems training. Paulson looked stunned. Ma'am, after how I treated you? You apologized. You learned. You did the work. That's what matters. Riley signed his evaluation. Don't waste the second chance. I won't. Thank you, Captain. Hayes completed his counseling program. He didn't seek Riley out again, but she saw him around the base. He was quieter now, more thoughtful, less bitter. Maybe he'd actually learned something. Earned something. Mitchell submitted his force reconnaissance package. Riley wrote him a letter of recommendation. 3 months later, he was accepted for selection. He stopped by the armory before shipping out. "Captain, I wouldn't have had the courage to try without your advice. Thank you." "You had the courage already, Corporal. I just helped you see it." 6 months passed. Riley's classes earned a reputation. Tough but fair. Technically excellent. Her students consistently outperformed other units in qualification scores. But more importantly, they learned how to think, how to problem-solve under pressure, how to lead by example rather than authority. Young Marines, especially women, continued seeking her out. Not for autographs or stories, for mentorship, for proof that someone like them could succeed. Riley met with them, answered questions, shared struggles honestly. She didn't sugarcoat the difficulties, but she also didn't discourage them from trying. One evening, Riley stood at the base memorial wall. The granite surface reflected sunset light. Names etched in stone. Marines who'd given everything. 4 names near the bottom: CPL J. Reeves, SGT M. Hoover, LCPL T. Vega, Capt. D. Walsh. She touched each name gently. "I'm still here, still trying. I know you'd probably tell me to stop being so serious, to lighten up. Danny would definitely say that." She smiled sadly. "But I'm doing okay. Some days are hard, some are better. I'm teaching now, helping other Marines not make the mistakes I made. I think you'd approve." Porter appeared beside her. He didn't speak, just stood there, respectful silence. After a moment, Riley said, "They'd be 30, 36, 28, and 41 now. Jesse would probably have kids. Thomas would be a sergeant. Marcus would be running someone's logistics section perfectly. Danny would be a major, maybe lieutenant colonel. And you're 26, an instructor, a mentor, making a difference every day. It doesn't feel like enough. It never does. But it's exactly what they'd want you doing, living, teaching, honoring them by being the best version of yourself." Riley nodded. "Master Gunny, why did you help me that day in the armory? When Brennan was being cruel, you could have stayed out of it." Porter smiled. "Because I recognized something in you that I've seen in every good Marine I've ever known. Not toughness, not skill, but quiet dignity. The kind that can't be taught. The kind that makes others want to be better. I don't feel dignified. I feel like I'm barely holding it together most days. That's what makes you human. And humans are the only ones worth following." They stood in silence as the sun set completely. The memorial wall disappeared into shadow. The names remained. Riley walked back to her quarters. Tomorrow she had a class at 0700. 12 new students. More young Marines trying to find their way. She'd help them, the way Porter had helped her, the way Danny Walsh had helped her years ago in Kabul, the way countless others had invested in her when she was just a 20-year-old kid who thought she could be a Marine. The cycle continued, broken people helping other broken people become whole. Not perfect, never perfect, just better. Riley opened her laptop, started preparing tomorrow's lesson plan, then paused, opened a new document, started writing. Not for publication, not for recognition, just for herself. She wrote about Kabul, about Jesse and Marcus and Tomas and Danny, about what they'd taught her, about how she carried them forward. The words came slowly, painfully, but they came. And for the first time since August 26, 2021, Riley felt like she wasn't just surviving, she was healing. The story of Riley Morgan didn't end with justice or revenge. It ended with something quieter, more meaningful. It ended with purpose. She'd been underestimated because of her age, mocked because of her size, dismissed because of her appearance. But she'd proven that warriors don't fit one mold, that strength comes in many forms, that respect is earned through character, not demanded through rank. And now she was teaching others the same lesson, one Marine at a time, one class at a time, one conversation at a time. The armory still called to her, the mechanical simplicity of weapons, the predictable physics of ballistics, the quiet solitude of technical work.
but the classroom called louder. Because there, she could make a difference that lasted beyond a single rifle repair. If this story reminded you that respect isn't about how you look, but how you act, drop a comment below. If you've ever been underestimated and proved them wrong, share your story. Hit subscribe for more real stories about courage that doesn't always look the way we expect. Riley Morgan didn't want to be a hero. She just wanted peace. But sometimes, peace comes from accepting who you are, scars and all, struggles and all, past and all. She was Captain Riley Morgan, age 26, MARSOC veteran, Silver Star recipient, PTSD survivor, instructor, mentor, and finally, after 3 years of running, she was home. Not because she'd found a place, but because she'd found herself. And that made all the difference. Semper Fidelis, always faithful. To the mission, to each other, to the truth that warriors come in all sizes, all ages, all backgrounds. And sometimes, the strongest among us are the ones who've been broken and chose to keep going anyway. That's Riley's story. That's every veteran's story. And it's a story worth remembering.